evening, folks. This is Ron Tyler with the Emergency Management Associates. This is Ron Tyler with the Emergency Management Associates coming to you live from the crossroads of the West in Lake City, Utah. The time right now is 7:05 p.m.
Barely clear on the backside of the sun, and then the earth is rotated and the sun is hitting. The earth is located around 3.5 miles southeast of the earth now. The solar wind is also
Folks, welcome to Emergency Management Associates. My name is Ron Tyler. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everyone to our show tonight and thank you for joining us. As we've been doing for quite some time, we're going to start off this evening with a salute to the United States of America, not the politics, but the country. This is the United States military, the United States Army, with the national anthem, and just prior to that, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everybody please rise?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air,
finest right there.
America's finest right there. Absolutely cotton picking. This is America's finest. The United States Army Barbershop Quartet singing at the Barbershop Quartet Convention in 2015. The host of the Barbershop Convention gave us the national anthem, or it gave us the Pledge of Allegiance, and we really appreciate that. God bless our military, wherever they might be around this world. We want to thank them for their service as well, and thank all of our military, far and wide, our allied military, wherever they might be. Thank you for your service, and may you all return home safely to your families when your tours of duty end. God bless you all, and thank you. Folks, we have a lot to talk about tonight, as we normally do. I want to talk about earthquakes. Primarily, this discussion will be about earthquakes. There's a lot of things that have been going on that I want to talk briefly about tonight. The primary, like I said, will be earthquakes. However, there was one very tragic accident that happened in northern India at the beginning of this weekend. There was a huge train crash. Approximately 3 trains slammed together. Over 900 people have been killed. Hundreds more have been injured. A lot of people are now homeless as a result of this train accident in India. Horrible accident. Folks, people were climbing up on top of the train cars to get out of the cars. It was bad. It was really bad. A lot of the train cars derailed. The trucks on the train cars, some of them remained on the tracks, but the car itself tumbled and fell on its side or on its top. And people who were living in that train car got out, fortunately. But 900 people were killed. It's incredible. The worst train accident ever in history. Those of you that know me and have been part of my life for a long time know that I love trains. I'm infatuated by trains. And I hate to hear about this. It's horrible. It really is horrible. Anyway, guys, Lisa Spencer's here in the chat. She's talking about sulfur and methane and other gases getting worse on the coastline of California, and animals are going silent. She says, get ready. And I'm going to be talking about that as well tonight. The first thing I want to do is show you what is going on around the world. That's where I'm coming from tonight. Okay? I find it very unfortunate that we've had the accidents that we've had. It's due to track maintenance and railroad car maintenance. The railroads have tried to continue doing what they've done best in hauling product all over the country and around the world. But maintenance has been lacking. As I said before, I am begging, no, I am telling the railroads, if you all work for the railroads, you tell them from me that they need to get up off their sorry keisters and make things right for the traveling public and for goods and services going along the rails so that people will survive what happens. We didn't used to hear about these train crashes because they were few and far between. And now we're seeing them. So railroads, and I'm not just talking about one, I'm talking about them all. From CSX, the New York Railroad, the Pennsylvania railroads. I'm talking about even the smaller railroads as well. Make sure your track crews are keeping the tracks in line. The maintenance of way crews, that's your responsibility. The mechanics, please do your jobs so that people will survive when something happens. And we can keep it from happening if we do regular maintenance on these cars and make sure they're up to snuff before anybody steps on them. I don't know. I'm very frustrated by it all. It just didn't used to happen. Almost never. Anyway, folks, let's get away from that and talk about earthquakes. I'm going to talk about this one in the Gulf of Mexico today, just south of Louisiana down here. Okay? This was a 3.3 magnitude earthquake. And I got some people saying, hey, did you see that earthquake in Louisiana? It was not in Louisiana. It was off the coast of Louisiana over here in the Gulf of Mexico. Yes, folks, there is a earthquake fault there, and you can pretty much see it. But what you don't see is almost directly south of there, in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, there's a volcano there. Now, I don't know. I have no way of knowing. I checked. I don't know if this earthquake has any relativity to the volcano that's down there. But we know it's happening. We know it's there. This was a 3.3 small earthquake. This is the first earthquake like this that we've seen here in a very, very long time. I have never seen one here. Never. This is the first. We're keeping an eye on the earthquakes along the New Madrid Fault. During this past weekend, we had some 2s and 3s that the USGS got off their butts and let people see. But they're not letting them see everything that's going on. I've shown you that. There are 3s and 4s hitting the New Madrid Fault in the areas north, south, east, and west of the fault. It's happening. The New Madrid Fault is building up in energy, and it's a matter of time before it goes. It really is. Now, folks, I don't want to beat a dead horse. We're going to be coming back to the New Madrid Fault either tomorrow or Wednesday, at the latest by Wednesday. But I want people to understand what is happening. Anybody that's living around the New Madrid Fault, and I'm showing that fault to you right now, that is the New Madrid Fault, starting way down south here. And it goes all the way north here to the Great Lakes, Illinois and Indiana, and into Ohio. This whole area, guys, is getting hit. I keep showing it to you. It's all part of the New Madrid Fault. Now, something else that you may not know. During the past, I want to say a week and a half, there was a place that is just west of me, south and west of me. It's called Canton, North Carolina. It's over here in the hills, in the Blue Ridge Mountains. This we call the Eastern Continental Divide, or the Eastern Craton. Again, let me back out here. Out here is the Atlantic Plate, where the Atlantic Ocean is. The Atlantic Plate is expanding. It's expanding. And what do you expect when it expands. It puts pressure on the land masses on the east and the west. In this case, what is going on? As I've said before, over here along the craton edge, the edge of the plate, the continental divide, over here in Canton, North Carolina, it started with 2.3s, 2.4s, 2.7s. Now it's gradually picked up to 3.3s and 3.6s, small earthquakes. As I've stated before, that's called increased seismicity, increased magnitude of quakes. Why is it doing that? Because the Atlantic plate is putting pressure on that continental divide, on the edge of the plate. And as a result, we are getting earthquakes. We're getting earthquakes. 3 years ago, we got an earthquake just north and west from where I live. It caused a 5.1 earthquake. The Atlantic plate was pushing on the North American plate, causing a 5.1 earthquake in Sparta, North Carolina. Now south and west of me, we're getting small quakes and tremors. It's caused by the expanding Atlantic plate, pushing the North American plate, the United States and Canada, in a south-southwesterly direction. That's what's causing that. And it continues to hammer here. It continues to hammer. But again, today, the USGS is not reporting it. For whatever the reason. I really don't much care. But I'm reporting it, and that's all that matters. People have asked me about it, and I've explained it. Now, people have also asked me if we are experiencing shaking where I live, as this is south and west of me in the mountains. No, I'm not getting any shaking going on where I live. However, yes, I am. It's in the form of tremors. 1.7, 1.9, 2.8 magnitude tremors. How do I know? Folks, I used to joke about this. See this water bottle? Well, guess what? The water bottle is not a magic lamp. It's not a magic bottle. It does not tell me information, except it shows me when my desk is moving. I have gone into the bathroom and lifted the toilet lid, and I see the water in the bowl moving. That tells me we have tremors, and we also have minor quakes going on. Quakes that we can't feel. These minor tremors and minor quakes we can't feel. Normal people don't feel quakes unless they're 3.2 and 3.7. 3.2 to 3.7 and above, most people can feel. 2.5s, 2.7s, 1.9, people aren't going to feel them. When I get reports of earthquakes from Charlotte, North Carolina, guess what? They're reporting 2.7, 2.8s that people are feeling. 200 or 300 felt reports. Guess what? Those are not 2.7s, 2.8 earthquakes. Those are much larger. I don't think they're too much larger because they did not do any damage. but people felt them. So folks, when you hear of earthquakes in the range of 2.7, 2.8, if people can feel those, they're a much larger quake. And I want people to know that. I want people to know that. Now, depending on the place of the quake, depending on where the quake is, whether it happens in a rocky area, for example, with a lot of granite or other rock, seismic waves travel just fine through rock. They travel really fast through rock. So it's likely that you're going to feel a 3.2, 3.7 and such. But if that quake is down deep, embedded in soil and such, and I'm talking 3.5, 7.5 miles deep, those minor quakes and even small quakes may not be felt. If they are shallow quakes, they will be felt. That's the difference. If they are shallow quakes, they will be felt. But when it's those small, minor tremors and minor earthquakes, 2.0, 2.9, it's probably not going to be felt until that seismic energy releases at about 3.2, 3.3, and you're going to start feeling some kind of shaking, a rumble under your feet. When it reaches up to 4.0, 4.9, you are going to feel a shaking. 4.0, 4.9 are considered moderate quakes, knocking knickknacks off of shelves, books off of shelves, throwing pictures off of walls, or dropping pictures off of walls. Those are moderate earthquakes. Large, 5.0 to 5.9. 5.5 to 5.9 are called very large quakes. And these quakes, 5.0 to 5.9, can do a lot of damage. And yes, they can kill people. 6.0, 6.9 are considered to be very strong quakes. 7.0 to 10.0 or larger are considered to be destructive major earthquakes. Destructive major earthquakes, just like we saw in Turkey. Just like we saw in Turkey. What we saw in Antarctica 2.5 years ago, a 9.0. In Valdese, Venezuela. No, I'm sorry, not Valdivia, Venezuela. Valdivia, Chile. A 9.0 earthquake happened there as well, destroying that area. We've seen what happened in Japan. That's what happens. Now these earthquakes we're seeing so far are just minor or small quakes. But the interesting thing that we need to keep in mind here is that the seismicity is increasing. The strength of these quakes are increasing, and that's what we need to be aware of. Okay? Everybody needs to know that. Why are we getting this gassy stuff off the coast of California? Because we have a plate there. Okay? We've got a huge plate there. What is going on? The entire Pacific Ocean is out there, right? Well, there's a Pacific plate there as well. Underneath the ocean, there's a Pacific plate, and it's taking a deep dive underneath the North American continent. A deep dive. On the east side, we have the Atlantic plate pushing on the North American plate, causing earthquakes on the east coast. Over on the west coast, we have a deep diving plate, and some of that pressure from the east coast is moving west, pushing the plate over the top of the North American plate. But the North American plate has its own force as well, and it's going and taking a deep dive under the North American plate. That causes mountain building. It causes mountain building. Subduction causes mountain building. But folks, there's another thing that we need to be aware about there. Where we have a plate that's doing that, there's gases that are being released from underneath the ground, underneath the plate, through the water, bubbling out into the water. Gases, methane, sulfur dioxide, and carbon dioxide. We've got a lot of biological materials holding those plates together, don't we? We've talked about it before. We have sand and dirt and biological material decaying plants and such, and fish that are down there. All that contributes to all that gunk holding the plates together. When the plates move, no matter how little or a lot that they move, that releases gas as well. It also, when those plates move like that, there's subduction going on. We have volcanoes. We cannot have a volcano unless there's a subduction process wherever it's at. That's what causes volcanoes. When we have CMEs from the sun, coronal mass ejections from the sun, it causes plasma radiation to come from the sun, and it heats up the earth. It heats up the plates, and it heats up the center core of the earth. Plasma radiation. We also have cosmic radiation coming out of the cosmos, the universe, that's making its way through the magnetosphere. We also have planetary alignments that causes electromagnetic radiation as well. All these factors come together, and it heats up all that biological material that's been holding these plates together. And when it heats it up enough, all that material holding those plates together becomes like a greasy, oily substance, and it allows the plates to move more freely, causing major earthquakes. Causing any kind of earthquakes, but a major quake can result. That's what's going on. That's the process that's going on out in our oceans, everybody. That's why we're getting that gassy methane SO2 smell. SO2 is sulfur smell. Carbon dioxide is coming up too. That's what's going on. Now, we talked about this past week when we talked about earthquakes on the Cascadia area. We spoke about this, and it's going to continue to happen. Regardless of what we do, it will continue to happen. Now, as normal, USGS has stopped me from using this map, and I'm going to get through it. Okay? I have a course that I follow to bring that map back, and we're going to do it right now. As you can see, USGS is not showing any earthquakes here on the East Coast. That's a fallacy. That's a complete lie, if you will. There's a lot going on. I want to show you a couple earthquakes up in northern Canada right now. Okay? I want to show you these. This one is this one is up in Sainte Félicité. I know it's French, I butchered the language, but this is in Sainte Félicité, Quebec, Canada. This is a 2.02 magnitude earthquake. A 2.02 magnitude earthquake up there in the far eastern part of the world there. Okay? It's going to continue to happen. Okay? Like I said, the Atlantic plate is pushing the North American plate. This is St. Simeon. St. Simeon has a 1.30 magnitude earthquake. A 1.30 magnitude earthquake. 2 earthquakes up there in Canada. Of course, they don't show them, do they? Oh, heaven's sakes, no. Heaven's sakes, no. They don't want anybody to know about it. How about Blanchard, Oklahoma? Blanchard, Oklahoma. It's a 3.41 earthquake. I'm sorry, 1.34. 1.34 magnitude earthquake. Blanchard, Oklahoma. They've had 3s as well before. Garden City, Texas. Garden City, Texas has a 2.0 magnitude earthquake. Further west, this is a 3.1 in Seven Rivers, New Mexico. Okay? It's still hitting over there on the west side of Texas. Now this is the first earthquake that I've seen at Seven Rivers. So we're going to zoom in on this quake. Bingo, bango, boingo. Guess what, guys? See that oil plot? Guess what? Oil and gas, guys. Oil and gas. There it is. Pumps and jacks, guys. Pumps and jacks. That's an oil and gas quake in southeastern New Mexico. There's plenty of others here as well. I want to point this out as well. There are two more pads right there, and both of them having pumps and jacks. Okay? All over this area, they're pulling oil and gas. All over the place. Okay? So anytime we see stuff like that, oil and gas, guys, we've been talking about this a lot. Now, I want to show you this as well. Okay? Over here, northwest of the Salton Sea, northeastern San Diego County. Look at the big swarm of earthquakes now. When we get swarms like this, this is an indicator of a much larger quake incoming. Swarms of small tremors and earthquakes, and yes, there's 1.2s, 1.7s, 2.5s, 2.02s and such here. When we get that, that indicates a coming larger quake. And that's going to happen there. It's definitely going to happen. Down here in northern Baja, look at this. Northern Baja. I'm going to go from north to south here. Rodolfo Sanchez, Baja California, there's a 3.4 there. A 3.4. What else is going on, folks? Guess what? There's also an earthquake fault there, and you can see it running from north to south just east of that quake, right down the center of the Baja. Okay, that's why that quake hit. Then going south, we've had 3.3s near San Felipe, west of San Felipe. Okay, 3.3s, 2.7s as well. 3 of the 3.3s there, and a 2.7. Northern Baja. Then let's go further west. Just off the coast of Vicente Guerrero, we have a 3.6. A 3.6. And just south and west of there, we have a 3.9, 4.0 magnitude earthquake there. Okay? Why? Because we've also got an earthquake fault just off the coast. Just off the coast. No, it has nothing to do with the San Andreas Fault. But there is also an earthquake fault just off the coast of Baja and Southern California. There are earthquake faults off the coast causing these earthquakes. And yes, folks, I'm going to show you something. See where these earthquakes are? Guess where this is? This is Ensenada, Mexico. This is Ensenada, Mexico. I've been there. Just about a year and a half ago, we had a series of large earthquakes, very strong 6.2, 6.3 magnitude earthquakes here near Ensenada. And guess what, folks? Those earthquakes were also felt in San Diego, California. It does happen. It does happen. But folks, this, oh gosh. These earthquakes that are just off the coast should be recognized, because that seismic energy is also traveling south and west. South and west. So if you think that you're not going to have anything to do with it, it might be just something you may have to deal with. Okay? So, 20 plus earthquakes here in northeastern San Diego County. How about this one off the coast? Let's take a look at this. Folks, this is more off the coast north, west of Los Angeles. This is west southwest of Aveyah, California. This is a 2.5 magnitude earthquake. A 2.5 magnitude earthquake just off the coast of LA. Southwest of Aveyah. Aveyah is an island out there. Yes, it has homes out there, condominiums. Aveyah Island is a well-to-do community just off the coast there. They have their issues there. But again, it's all about earthquake faults. Earthquake faults all over this area. Literally. Okay? Now, we don't see a lot of earthquakes over here in Los Angeles. We're not showing them. There are earthquakes there. They just don't tell us about it. Okay? Redlands, out east. Redlands had an earthquake too. It was a 1.22 tremor. Another 1.22 tremor is Glen Avon. There's Glen Avon. Now, why am I showing you that? Because, folks, when we last had a ton of earthquakes over here in this area, what did we see within a matter of several months? The last time we had an earthquake in Glen Avon, and it turned into multiple quakes, and that's what we're starting to see there. We had the Ridge Crest quake several months later. We do see an increase in seismic activity in this area. We see an increase in activity in northeast San Diego County, and it's moving north. It's moving north. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here showing you all this information. But guess what? Right here, the San Andreas Fault. This other fault called the Garlock leads up to Ridgecrest, Cyril's Valley out here. What do we have here on the Garlock, guys? Gorman, California with a 1.49 tremor. That's Gorman, California right there. Just barely northwest, also on the San Andreas Fault, this is Pine Mountain Club, a 2.21 earthquake there. Okay, so we have seismicity there on the Garlock. Mojave, California, a 1.27 quake, tremor. We go north. Boron, California. Boron, California, guys, yes, it was a 1.74 tremor, but guess what it was? Guess what that was? It was an explosion. That particular earthquake was an explosion at a quarry where they're mining borax. 1.74 tremor at a borax quarry. So that was not an earthquake. That was an explosion at the quarry where they've been mining borax for soap. Borax is a soap. Okay? They've been doing that. Then we move up further north and east to Cyril's Valley. There's a 1.0 tremor right there. Cyril's Valley. Just south of there, also in Cyril's Valley, is a 2.58 tremor right there. It's a minor quake there. A 2.58 minor earthquake right there. Now, we didn't hear of any other earthquakes or tremors over Ridgecrest area, did we? Guess what? There are quakes and tremors there. These people included are not telling us about it. There are tremors over there in Ridgecrest as well. Okay? I'm going to go up the San Andreas Fault. Tres Pinos, a 1.31 tremor at Tres Pinos. It's on the San Andreas Fault, just southeast of Monterey Bay. Then we're going to go up here. The first earthquake I'm going to talk about is also on the Calaveras Fault. This is a 1.65 at Walnut Creek. That's on the Calaveras Fault. Just west of there, and this is on the Hayward Fault. This is on the Hayward Fault, and I'm going to show you where this earthquake is. So you'll remember this. This is a 1.2 tremor in Berkeley, California. Berkeley, California. What do you see there? Just to the southwest of that quake is a football field. It's the Berkeley University football field. It's a university, guys. We've had numerous quakes in this area. This is on the Hayward Fault. Now, folks, I'm going to expand this just a little bit, because just about a year ago, we had 4 earthquakes here, right underneath the football field. Right underneath the football field here in Berkeley. Okay? Yes, guys, it's happening. It's happening. We knew that this was going to happen. It's been happening. This should be nothing new. This should be nothing new. This is the first time in quite some time that they've shown us an earthquake there. But it's there. North of there, Santa Rosa, California had a 2.5 earthquake. Santa Rosa, California. The other earthquakes, which are right here, these are the geysers in Sonoma, California. As we've told you, the geysers are a geothermal field where man has drilled into the earth there, 100 miles north of San Francisco Bay, and they've drilled in there to pull steam out of a volcano, the Clear Lake volcano. They're pulling steam out of the volcano, and what happens? When seismic energy finds those drill points, something happens, doesn't it? Oh, you better believe it. It happens all the time. Literally all the time. Now they seized my map again, so I'm just going to take it down. I'm going north up to the Cascadia. This is an important quake today. Okay? This is the only quake that they're showing us right now. There was another quake over in the Puget Sound area, and it was a tremor. But they've taken it down. Folks, this is just a minor microquake. Possibly a 1.1 or 1.0 tremor. Right here. Guess what it is? Guess what volcano it is? That is Mount Rainier. A 0.9 tremor, 1.0 tremor at Mount Rainier. Now, would you like to know something else? It's even more interesting than that. It has a depth of 8.7 miles deep inside the volcano. So, you know, they might say, oh, nothing's happening. That 8.7 depth tells us it was magma down beneath the volcano that caused that tremor. Magma down beneath Mount Rainier caused that tremor. Okay? They can lie to us. They cannot even show it. But folks, when we see it, we know what happened. Down here was a 1.7 tremor. Okay? Part of the Puget Sound area here. There was a 1.7 tremor right there. Okay? That's a Puget Sound area. Right here, guess what this is? This is the Strait of Juan de Fuca. The Strait of Juan de Fuca. Okay? Strait of Juan de Fuca. We've had earthquakes here as well. Why? Because, folks, we're coming to the point, we're getting to the point of having a major earthquake off the coast of Seattle. Off the coast of Seattle. Okay? Right in this area here. Right here. Right here, guys. This is the Cascadia subduction zone, reaching up here to Queen Charlotte Island. Further west here is the Juan de Fuca Fault. This zigzag fault that comes down here to the Blanco fracture zone right here. That's the Blanco fracture zone. this other fault here that runs from northeast part here at the Blanco fracture zone, it runs south down here. This is the Gorda Ridge. Down here, this fault here runs from the Gorda Ridge, and it runs east. It runs east into Northern California right here. Okay, the Gorda Escarpment. So we have the Cascadia subduction zone running all the way down the coast of Oregon and Washington State, all the way down here to Northern California. The triple junction, folks, we talked about this last week. I'm just reminding you what is going on here. Okay? We have the Cascadia subduction zone, we have the Gorda Escarpment, and right here we have the San Andreas Fault. The San Andreas Fault. And it runs down here over to San Francisco. We're just barely off the coast of San Francisco, and then it runs from there south into California, all the way down through California, down through northern Mexico, and then it continues south from Mexico all the way down the coast. This, folks, is how we're going to see a major earthquake up and down the entire west coast of the United States and Canada. Okay? Now, like I said, when the Cascadia subduction zone quake happens, it's going to at least be a 9.0 to a 10.0 magnitude earthquake. A major earthquake. Major earthquake. It's going to shake this area spitless. Okay? This earthquake is going to hit right in here. It's going to be felt all the way up here into northern Canada. Everybody's going to feel it here. It's going to be felt all the way down here as well, past northern Canada. Okay? Felt all the way down here into northern California, and point south as well. Point south as well. Why? Because, folks, as we know, as we have discussed in the past, scientists feel that it's going to trigger the San Andreas. When it triggers the San Andreas here, look at here. Okay? We have the Cascadia subduction zone, right? It's going to trigger the San Andreas here. And all that pressure is going to come down into California. It's going to come down into California here. All the way down here into Mexico. All the way down the faults. So the entire west coast of North America is going to feel that earthquake at one size or another. As it proceeds south, it's going to lose some fury. But even down as far south as Los Angeles and San Diego and northern Mexico. Folks, it's going to be a 7.0, 6.0 magnitude earthquake. This whole area is going to be affected. Anybody that thinks they're going to get away with nothing is wrong. It's going to be a major event. Like I said, the last time it happened, it was felt all over the place, guys. And it caused a major tsunami that went across the entire ocean, over here to Japan. Okay, it's a big deal. So not only are we going to get major shaking here in North America, The tsunami that's going to cause is going to be again felt over here in the Japan area, this whole area here, and even probably down here into the Philippines and Indonesia. A tsunami of this size is going to be an entire Pacific Plate event. It's going to be an entire Pacific Plate event. Okay? Now, the only other large earthquake that hit today was a 5.2 earthquake here in Papua New Guinea. Okay? The USGS map doesn't show hardly any earthquakes at all here in Indonesia. Look at this. That's a lot of earthquakes. That's a ton of earthquakes. Sumatra here. Sumatra, look at that. Over here in Java, Indonesia here. Up into central Indonesia here, and even up into the Philippines. Got hit today. Got hit today. Okay? In southern Japan, Toshima, Japan, a 2.5 today. Okay? That was there. As we go north off of Honshu, Japan, Takahagi Ibaraki, Japan, had a 3.6 over along the coast. 3.6 is just a small earthquake. Small earthquake. Off the coast there, another 3.6 hit there. Just south of there, this is another 3.6. So folks, Honshu, Japan got hit with a series of threes today. We don't often see that. And two of them were off the coast, so those were not even felt because the waters of the Pacific Ocean just assimilated that energy. And anybody on the shore that felt the one 3.6 earthquake, it was just shaking beneath their feet. Not a big deal. Further north in Japan, we had a 3.9. This is Miyagi Prefecture. Miyagi Prefecture in Japan, a 3.9. The only real other seismic events that have happened, I'm going to, oh geez, they just took one down here. Okay, down here in the Andaman Islands here, south and east of India, north of Sumatra, Indonesia, had a 3.6 here. I wanted to tell you that because we've also had 5.0, 5.5 activity here in the Andaman Islands. Okay? Then we go up to Myanmar. And they took that one down too. There's two earthquakes in Myanmar. Over here in northeastern India, this is a 2.4. Just north and east of there is a 2.9 in Myanmar, Burma here. Myanmar and Burma there. Okay? Then we go a little bit north and east. This is in the Himalaya Mountains. This is a 2.6 magnitude earthquake here. Just south of Japan there. Or not Japan, south of China. Boy, did I blow up there. Also over here in the Himalayas is GOZ, G-O-Z, in the eastern Himalayas, western Himalayas. This is a 4.2 earthquake. This is north of Afghanistan and Tajikistan and Kazakhstan. A 4.2 earthquake there. Now why am I going over here? Yes, I'm going to get to what I'm talking about the Cascadia. I'm getting there. Southern Iran with a 4.1. Now see that 100 plus earthquakes here? Guess where that is? Turkey and Syria. 100 plus quakes. USGS tried to pass this off as a very strong quake. Guess what? Yeah, it was very strong, but it was, guess what? A 9.0 earthquake. Not a lousy 7.8 that they tried to pass off. We're still getting a lot of earthquakes there. 3s, 4s, and even some large 5s in Turkey. That area is not going to recover very fast. Not when it continues to shake like it is. Okay? It's not. Over here in Greece, we have 10 plus earthquakes in Greece here. Okay? Northeast, 2.0. This is also the same location where we had a 6.5 here a year and a half ago. Okay? Northeast here in western Turkey, we have a 3.2 and a 1.9 in northwestern Turkey. Okay? 10 plus in Greece. Okay? Then, I'm showing you these for a reason. I'm trying to show you the earthquake progression. Okay? It might start over in the Pacific, but all this earthquake energy is working its way west again. Okay? Look at this, guys. Sicily down here. Look at Italy. Look at the boot of Italy here. All the way up here. A bunch of earthquakes, huh? Oh yeah. And then we get up to the Alps. Slovenia, a 1.3. Just west of there, a 1.0. This is typical, guys. Nothing out of the ordinary. Here's a 1.3 in Trentino. This is northern Italy Alps. North Italian Alps here. There's one other one just north of there. This is in Tyrol, Italy, a 0.4. This is very typical for the northern Alps of Italy here. Then what is this, guys? Let's take a look quickly. Okay, this is Schlottenhaus. Schlottenhaus. I believe this is France. Schlottenhaus, France. Okay, 1.3 there. Switzerland. Actually, that was probably Switzerland. I'm sorry. It hadn't got further south. That would have been France. It's in Switzerland. This is a 1.1 in Switzerland as well. Okay? But Italy is getting nailed here. Look at that. There's a lot more than 10 plus. 2, 4, 6, 7, and it still has 9 there. Okay? 16 earthquakes. 16 earthquakes. Again, these are not more than anything but tremors and microquakes. But they're still there. They're hitting. Swarms of earthquakes hitting Italy. They're going to get a much larger earthquake there soon. Okay? It's going to happen. Then we come down here to the Strait of Gibraltar area. Over here in the middle of the strait here, we have some earthquakes here. We have an earthquake fault. That's why they're happening. Okay? That's why they're happening. This is a 2.3 today. 1s and 2s and 3s here. Okay? Right north of the strait in Spain, we have a 2.0. See here? You see the strait right here? 2.0 just north of there. And one other one here. This is also a 2.0. Oh, darn it. I hate it when it does that. Anyway, I'm sorry it won't bring it up again. This is also 2.0. Right at the strait. Okay? Then we go out into the Azores. Here's a 2.3. Okay, south of there. This is also a 2.3. Notice those two earthquakes up here in Portugal area? Up here, excuse me. Up here we have a 1.5, border of Portugal and Spain. And up here we have a 2.1. A 2.1 right there. Okay? Then we go down towards the Canary Islands. Just north of the Canary Islands, we have another couple of 2s right here. But what do we have there and why? We have an undersea mount volcano, don't we? That's why we have some earthquakes there. An undersea mount volcano. Okay? Over in the Canary Islands, this time it's not La Palma Island. This is Tenerife Island, and off the east coast of Tenerife. Again, we have a bunch of tremors. It's a 1.7. South of there is a 1.6, and here's another 1.6. 1.7 and two 1.6s here, off of Tenerife. Okay, up until we had all those earthquakes at La Palma, we didn't much see any earthquakes at all over in the Canary Islands. But after that Cumbre Vieja volcano right here lit off here just south of the mouth of the volcano, right here, that's when we started seeing these other earthquakes all over the Canary Islands. All over. Now, they've taken it down. There was also another 2.6 up here in Scotland. A 2.6 hit here in Scotland today. Okay? You think that the British Crown doesn't get hit with earthquakes? Oh yeah, they do. We just don't hear about it. Okay? But over in Scotland today, they got hit. Now, I want to tell you about some other quakes here. Okay? Over here in southern Norway, we have a 2.0. A 2.0 right here in southern Norway. Right next to it, a 1.2. A 1.2. It used to be we never ever saw any earthquakes here in Scandinavia. But we're seeing more and more of them here in southern Norway and southern Sweden right here. Okay? But we do have another one up north here. This is in northern Sweden. It's called Norrbotten's Län. Norrbotten County, Sweden. A 1.4 magnitude earthquake in Norrbottens County, Sweden. Okay? Sometimes we even see earthquakes over here in Finland, but today that was not the case. Okay? But 3 earthquakes in Scandinavia. And while we're at it, Iceland. Oh, I'm sorry. Over here at the volcano. Just a minor tremor there. A couple of them anyway. At the volcano. And it's going off. And now my stupid map doesn't want to tell me what these are. These are tremors here at the volcano. And it's still erupting there. It's still erupting. Then over here, over on this ice sheet, that's also a volcano. They call it geyser. Geysir. Geyser. That's a volcano, guys. It's hidden under that sheet of ice there. Over here, right here, this is another volcano. And they're saying that if that volcano ever goes, it'll shut down air traffic in Europe. Now, folks, there are 5 quakes here. This one's a 2.3. That one's a 2.3. Okay? The other quakes, 1.0, 2.1, 1.1, and 1.4. So we have 2 2s and 3 1s, just tremors. Okay? It still happens. We have 2 other minor tremors here as well, a 1.0 and a 1.4 here, over on the northeast part of Iceland. Then off the coast, these are all 1s. These are all 1.0, 1.4, 1.7. Okay? Look where they're at. Where are they at, guys? This is the North Atlantic Fault. The North Atlantic Fault starts way down in the South Atlantic, and it goes all the way up here to Iceland. Then it cuts Iceland in half. That's why they get earthquakes in Iceland. All kinds of quakes. And Greenland last week got hit by an earthquake as well. Okay? They got hit by an earthquake as well. Just so you know. Okay? I'm going down to Haiti. Here's a 3.0 in Haiti. I'm sorry, not 3.0, 3.6. Dupage, Haiti, and a 3.7. And folks, a 3.4. And one more. This is a 3.0 off the coast. Now, while these are just small quakes, people feel them moving. But the problem with that is, guys, what else happened? If you guys haven't found out, there is huge flooding going on here in Haiti. 90 people have died here in Haiti due to the flooding. Tremendous amounts of rainfall have hit the Dominican Republic and Haiti as of the past few days. People have died in the floods. It's happening. North of there in Bermuda, they're calling this Cuba, but this is over towards Bermuda. This is a 4.2 magnitude earthquake. We don't usually see earthquakes up there, but today we did. Over here in northeastern Dominican Republic, we had a 3.2. Over in southwestern Puerto Rico, and this is why I wanted to pull this up. This is the first time I've only seen 2 earthquakes here in southwestern Puerto Rico. This one's a 2.5. And right next to it is a 2.41. Guanica, Puerto Rico. This is where my friend Dominic lives, who is a police officer here on the island of Puerto Rico. Puerto Rican Police Force. Up here on the Cayman Ridge, this is a 3.8 earthquake. The Cayman Ridge is an earthquake fault that runs from Guatemala all the way out here, past the Cayman Islands, just jutting on the south part of Cuba, continuing east past Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, past the U.S. and British Virgin Islands out here, all the way out here. Okay? It runs all the way out here, guys, all the way south here. All the way south past the Leeward Islands. Then, folks, guess what it does? Guess what it does? All the way past the Leeward Islands here. It continues south here. Then it just juts almost entirely west, past Grenada, over here into Venezuela. Okay, the Cayman Ridge. It packs a pretty tough punch. It takes seismic energy that's come out of South America into Central America, and some of that turns onto the Cayman Ridge, and that's what we see today. We still see earthquakes over here in Central America. USGS doesn't show us any of that. We're also seeing a lot of earthquakes here in southern Mexico. USGS shows us none of that. Okay? Not a thing. Over here in Peru, Arequipa, Peru, we had a 5.0 earthquake here. USGS shows us this and 2 other quakes. But look what happened. 18 earthquakes here along the coast of Central America. USGS shows us 3, one of them being a large 5.0. So now I show you around the world. Basically around the world. Okay? Now, some 2 quakes happened yesterday. I want to just briefly touch on that. This one near Macquarie Island here. That was a 5.1. Over here to the east, right here, on the South Antarctic Ridge. South Antarctic Ridge, we had a very large 5.8 magnitude earthquake right here. It wasn't anything. Nobody got hurt by it. Nobody felt it. But it was on the Antarctic Ridge south of New Zealand. South of New Zealand. Okay? But again, USGS doesn't ever show us what's hitting New Zealand. These are all minor and small quakes. All up and down on the South Island here and on the North Island here. Small and minor earthquakes there. Okay? So now I've literally showed you the world. I've taken you on a tour. Folks, there's a lot more. There's a lot more to talk about. Now, I want to talk about this because I feel it's absolutely necessary. Okay? Last week we talked a lot about Cascadia. This is important. This is very important. Those of you that are here, I hope you stay here for the continuation of this. Okay? We already have 114 thumbs up, and I appreciate that greatly. I don't know how many people are actually watching this program. I'm hoping it's several hundred, at least. I'm hoping it's 600 or 700 or 800. That would be great, because it will get 1,000 plus likes or 1,000 plus viewers by tomorrow. What I'm going to talk to you about is very important. We talked about the Cascadia area just briefly a few minutes ago. What I'm going to talk to you is about that earthquake and the risks of people that live in that area and choosing routes to safer areas. Choosing routes to safer areas. There are no absolute safe routes or safe zones following the upcoming Cascadia megathrust earthquake. There are only safer routes and safer zones. Regardless of where you go, you're going to feel shaking of some kind. You may feel strong shaking, you may feel moderate shaking, but you're going to feel shaking, and there's going to be damage from that quake and all the aftershocks. Some associated risks can only be avoided, or cannot be avoided entirely, and only others can we be reducing them. However, my intent tonight is to inform you of the associated risks so that you can act to reduce your risk exposure following the upcoming Cascadia megathrust earthquake. and make your own best decisions. That's what I'm talking about. No, we're not going to stop talking about Cascadia. That's going to be a fact that we're going to deal with as we continue to see earthquakes in that region, as we prepare for the Cascadia megathrust earthquake that's going to be very dangerous. But tonight, I'm going to talk with you about the associated risks and what you might see and feel during and after this quake. During the next few days, I'm going to talk about other things involving earthquakes. What you can expect to see and what you can expect to feel, and how you should react and what you should do during and after these earthquakes, no matter how large they are. Tonight, I want to tell you this. Few people currently recognize that the reactivation of volcanoes and volcanic fields has been occurring for years now, several years. We've seen the reactivity of the volcanoes. We've seen that. We've also seen tree kill evidence, and that tells us that this has been ongoing since 2005. Tree kill evidence as a result of volcanic activity all over the western United States. This failure to recognize reactivation also includes lesser known similar volcanoes and fields all the way from Mexico to mid-British Columbia, and all areas in between, as well as in Alaska. The evidence says that the Cascadia megathrust earthquake will be also a massive volcanic event, as it is an earthquake and tsunami that we talked about. Now, I suggest you read what we put out. Go back and not read, but I'm sorry, that was a bad word. Go back and see and listen to what we talked about. You may also want to take notes. We've given you a lot of information, and I understand that. That's why we put out these videos, so you'll have this information to refer to. But just don't put it out there and put it out for months or years from now. Because when it happens, you're not going to see it, because you're going to be too busy trying to save your butts. That's why I'm talking tonight, to save our butts and save our families' lives. The evidence says that this earthquake will be as volcanic as much as seismic and a tsunami. Now, please go back and review everything we've talked about and take notes, and make sure you keep those notes, because those things are going to help you when this thing hits. Tsunamis. We talked about the Cascadia tsunami. How high is high enough? Quite frankly, there are too many variables to know for certain. Higher is better. In my estimation, it's going to be 150 or 100 to 150 feet high. 100 to 150 feet high. Some people say as high as 600 feet to allow for the worst possible potentials. But no one is absolutely certain. No one knows, because no one alive has ever seen as large an earthquake as this is going to be, nor the tsunami that it's going to cause. The people in Japan that kept records are the only records that we have that would even tell us what that tsunami was like in Japan when it hit. Now, This has only occurred probably in 2 or 3 clusters over the past 10,000 years. The Cascadia megathrust earthquake may have only happened 2 or 3 times prior during the last 10,000 years. The evidence says that we are likely to see a cluster again this time. A cluster of earthquakes, yes, absolutely, as well as a cluster of tsunamis. It's not going to be just one wave. If someone thinks it's just going to be a one wave, they're wrong. It's going to be many, many, many waves, probably upwards of 60 different waves, very high and getting lesser, but at least probably, I'm not even sure, but I'm just throwing that number out. There's going to be a significant number of tsunami waves. Now, let's talk about volcanic risks. Let's talk about volcanic risks. Volcanic ash to start with. Volcanic ash contains what they call altered silicates. Silica. If anybody has ever worked with concrete or mortar and you haven't added water to it, all that dust in there are silicates. That's what ash contains, is silicates and other minerals in various sizes. Toxins may also be included in ash, as sulfur and strong acids and fluoride. These particles, completely coated with volcanic acids, are quite irritating to the eyes and the lungs and even your skin. If rain gets involved with the acid, it will become a direct skin irritant and the risk of the eyes to increase and even cause blindness. One should always use the best respiratory protection that they have available. Okay? But at least you have to cover your face with something and not expose your skin, your nose, your mouth, your eyes to the volcanic ash, or at least as least amount as possible. You could also wear goggles. Wear goggles. Let's talk about the silicates, similar to what you see in dry mortar. This is not a concern regarding volcanic ash, necessarily. According to recent medical research, presumably this is ash as a strong irritant, and it's quickly expelled by coughing. But you may have to cough up a bunch of it. Now, I can't find any medical studies that conclude that freshly erupted volcanic ash will cause silicosis, meaning silicosis is silica in the lungs and the respiratory tract. However, I am leaving you one study as a reference by Gunnar Gudmundsson. Gunnar Gudmundsson. Last name is Gudmundsson. In Swedish, it's Gudmundsson. Gudmundsson. He wrote a study. Now, let's talk about respiratory exacerbation. It could cause a very huge amount of coughing. Okay? If anybody has a pre-existing lung condition, it may get worse. Pre-existing lung conditions is the most common issue. So if you get an inhaled silicates, that may make your condition a lot worse and a lot more dangerous. Let's talk about hydrogen halides, HALIDES. strong acids that are emitted from volcanoes, and these often coat the ash. This makes volcanic ash a very strong respiratory irritant. Also, with inescapable environment that you may all be living in, with heavy ashfall. Okay? Again, there was a mariner off the coast at this point in time when the last Cascadia megathrust earthquake hit. He said that either Glacier Peak or Mount Rainier were erupting. And yet I've shown you last week at this time a lot of seismograms showing a lot of earthquakes and tremors hitting Mount Rainier, and a lot of steam being emitted as well. That says one thing, that Mount Rainier is getting ready to go. Volcanic ash by itself is an eye irritant due to not only the particulate matter, but also the acids that commonly coat the ash. Prolonged exposure will lead to a corneal abrasion, an abrasion on your eye. If you touch your eye, you're going to either cut it or you're going to irritate your eye, even worse, especially if that ash or anything got in it. It can also cause conjunctivitis. And if enough acidic ash exposure may cause irreparable damage to your eyes. That's why we recommend that you have some goggles. Make that something of importance to put in your 72-hour kit or your emergency preparedness kit. Goggles for each member of your family. Now, something else that you may not have thought of. Wet ash is also electrically conducive. It's a good conductor of electricity. It short circuits transformers, causing power loss, and that is very common. Now, ash clouds are something different. Ash clouds disrupt airway communications. Airwave communications. What does that do? If we push the button on this handy-talkie, this is a family radio service radio. And I have another one that's even better than this. This is just an example. If I press this button and try to talk, what do you think is going to happen if the air is filled with ash? The ash acts as a wall, and it's not going to allow the signal to leave my radio and being transported through the air to somebody else necessarily, unless you're very, very, very close. Ash will act like a wall and disrupt the communication. Okay? So this earthquake will also disrupt communications. It'll knock out power, in the very least. So if you want to run communications, you have handy-talkies, you have walkie-talkie ham radios, you need to have battery power. Battery power. I have solar panels here hooked up to storage batteries, so I can run my ham radio off of these storage batteries almost indefinitely, especially if I keep them charged with the solar panels. Okay, what am I saying to you? You need to have some kind of generator, whether it's a solar generator or some other kind of generator to keep your equipment running. Okay? Now, what else does ash do? Ash will clog air filters. Air filters of cars, air filters in your home, or anywhere else that you're at. Ash will clog all exposed air filters. It stops machinery that is not even closely attended. If you're not watching, that ash will get through the air filter and it will actually stop your machinery from functioning. Extensive ash. Volcanism from multiple stratovolcanoes would produce extensive ash. There are many disastrous effects from extensive ash. Ash accumulating on your cars, scratching your cars and turning into concrete if it gets wet. Turns into concrete on the roadways. On the roofs, if that ash gets wet, it'll turn the roof into concrete, and the weight of that ash could cause your roof to collapse. Okay? Now with all the ash and the other gases and everything else from the volcano, ash is dangerous. Water contamination. In 1912, ash from Mount Katmai in Alaska, that eruption there, covered all the surface and the freshwater sources with the ash. Covered them. Acidity from the ash can make the water unfit for consumption, even if you're filtering it. The acids from the ash will get into your drinking water. pH adjustment would also be required. Acid and water causes the pH numbers to skyrocket. Okay? But fluoride is also volcanic ash byproduct, and it's toxic in sufficient quantities. Contaminated water is a very real concern regarding extensive ash output. This can last for years. Ash is toxic to plants, so if you've been trying to raise a garden and that volcano explodes, erupts, and we have ash everywhere, the acid of the ash will either eat through the leaves, or the heaviness of the ash will destroy your plant. It'll weigh heavy on the plant and destroy it. Ash is toxic to plants for years. Increased soil acidity, fluoride poisoning, and leaf coverage blocking photosynthesis, and plant respiration. These are just some of the causes of your plants dying. Excessive ash can create a biological wasteland for years, many years. What are the risks associated with cattle and other livestock, including your horses, your goats? The ingestion of significant ash through grazing results in a high mortality for grazing animals. The animals are going to die in great numbers. The ash is also going to cause blindness. Described by Alaskan residents in older documentation, dogs were blinded by both acid rain and ash causes. Wild animals were found blinded as well. Fish kill. Ash causes short-term fish kill. Delicate gill structures do not tolerate ash very well. Ash also depletes the algae, part of the food chain for fish. Shellfish are equally affected. Now the volcanic gases. Volcanoes emit a lot of gas. Some of those emissions are very dangerous. Carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide may not sound very deadly, but It can be when it's associated with volcanic activity, because it is heavier than air, meaning it will push those lighter gases out of depressions, and it can be a very deadly unseen trap. Suppose you live on top of a hill after a volcanic eruption, and you go down the hill. That gully, that area beneath your hill could fill with carbon dioxide. It can be very deadly if you try to go down the hill. You can fill the area there with carbon dioxide, eliminating the oxygen. You go down the hill, you're not going to be able to breathe for very long. It pushes the lighter gases out of depressions. It can be a deadly unseen trap. Concentrations of 3% cause headaches. 15% carbon dioxide will cause death. We've talked about sulfur dioxide before, and it forms as an aerosol, including sulfuric acid, and it becomes a strong respiratory irritant, which also affects the eyes. It's called VOG, V-O-G, volcanic ash and fog. Volcanic ash and fog. We talked about this after Kilauea erupted last time. And then the lava left Kilauea and Pu'u'o'o volcanoes and went out to the northeast rift zone of Fern Forest and Leilani Estates. And then the eruption continued. 24 fissures blew open, causing VOG. Sulfuric acid mixing with water fog turns into VOG. Volcanic ash, sulfuric acid, and fog. You need to consider this along with the erupting ash. Now, when that volcanic ash and that volcanic lava hits the open ocean, that's when you're going to see VOG especially. Okay? Strong acids called hydrochloric halides, H-A-L-I-D-E-S, hydrochloric halides, 3 strong kinds of acids: fluorine, hydrofluorine, and hydrochloric halides. Some volcanoes produce higher levels of all of these. Now, lower concentrated gases also may include hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide that we've seen coming from cars, carbon disulfide, carbon sulfide, hydrogen sulfide, chlorine, boron, methane, and mercury vapor, and other organic compounds as well. And yes, even gold. Yes, folks, the melting lava may contain gold. I've seen it happen. I used to have a piece of gold in a piece of lava. Also, while we're talking about the immediacy of the eruptions, pyroclastic flows and lahars. Pyroclastic flows are associated with stratovolcano eruptions. They are made up of superheated gases as hot as 1300 degrees Fahrenheit and contain not only ash but large chunks of rock and boulders. They travel at average speed of 62 miles per hour. but they can reach speeds of 430 miles per hour. 430 miles per hour. Can you imagine that? Steep slopes and the eruption column. Steep slopes and the eruption column collapse. What happens? The collapse of the volcano. Then we have lava literally pouring out of the volcano. And it's pouring out in these fissures that have collapsed alongside the flank of the volcano. And these steep slopes with the ash and the lava pick up speed. And they are going to be the cause of the pyroclastic flow, because the molten material is going to come downhill at a faster rate. But they also create an air cushion underneath them, according to some studies. And resistance is very low as a result. These are incredibly destructive. They can reach out to 20 miles from the volcano. 20 miles from the volcano. And in some cases, they can also combine with melted snow and ice and become a lahar, which can be up to 500 feet in depth. 550-foot depth. And they can travel over 30 miles, quite commonly. Lahars. Lahars can be formed alone, by themselves, from volcanic heating of snow, or they can combine with a pyroclastic flow. In rare instances, they can be caused by slope failures. Slope failures, where the slope just disintegrates in on itself from weight, or if there has been a lot of lava inside that volcano at that time, and that lava is no longer in that specific area, the flank could collapse. Okay? Slope failures. These carry trees, boulders, sticks, rock of any kind, and any other junk that picks up. We've seen that happen before. These flows travel at speeds of 50 miles per hour or less, usually. A lahar will travel 50 miles per hour or less. And these are commonly very destructive, immensely destructive. Lahar distances vary, with 30 miles maybe being common, or up to 60 miles away. 60 miles away. Combine this with a tsunami, and you have real problems. Real problems. Now, I'm going to talk about one volcano, and maybe this week we can talk about other volcanoes in the Cascade Mountain Range. But I want to talk about one volcano right now, Mount Baker. Mount Baker had an explosive eruption about 6,000 years ago, and another in 1843. There is no record of a pyroclastic flow from those. However, it produced very large lahars that stretched into the Puget Sound, 40 miles away. One lahar was 300 feet deep near Mount Baker and 25 feet deep 30 miles away. There are approximately 100,000 residents living in that area. 100,000 Washington State residents living in the area atop old Mount Baker lahars. on top of Mount Baker lahars. Okay? That's how serious this is. I wanted to make sure you were aware of it. This is very real. I will talk about more of this a little bit later this week. But I wanted to give you a highlight of what exactly is going to happen and why. Okay? I can talk about all the volcanoes and all the risks, but you need to know it because these risks are real. They are very real. Does anybody have any questions for me? I've given you a lot of information. I promised we'd talk about earthquakes. We did. We talked a little bit about the Cascadia, then we got into the real factors. And yes, we will talk about evacuation routes this week. Okay? This is real. Okay? Linda Covington says a photo sometimes is better than using 100 words. You're probably right. Maybe I'll try to get some photos of lahars and also photos of the pyroclastic flows. I can do that. Anybody else have any questions? What is the best mask for volcanic ash and gas? Renee Steffi's asking. I can't answer that here. When we get talking about that 5-letter word, that's when I get kicked off the internet. That's why when I get kicked off this channel. YouTube doesn't like that word. I've already said it once. I'm not going to say it again. I will, if you're interested, you can send me a text or you can send me an email and I will send you that information. But it's the same kind of filter that you put over your face, and it has a little dot on it. Not a little bit, but a dot about this big. Okay? That kind of filter. You can start off, yes. Hurricane Heather just posted here in the chat. That's the one. Okay? But if those of you who are just listening want that information, I can send it to you. But that's exactly what it is. Heather put it up. Thank you, Heather. We appreciate that. Okay? Now, Rob52, one of my dear friends, just put up our information. Just gave you all of our email addresses. I'd recommend Gmail, and I'd also recommend you send us a note in the mail. P.O. Box 422, Valdese, North Carolina. Zip code is 28655. You can also send us monetary donations, which we really appreciate. Okay? Carrington 2025 says I have a P100. That could be good as well. I used to have a P100 when I was a police officer. It helped filter the really painful gas that we emitted from our canisters on our belts, if you know what I mean. Okay? Linda Covington says it depends if you're a military or first responder. If you're a first responder, guys, guess what? Yeah. Those of us that have been there will be there. Okay? Michael McKinney says tear gas. Oh yeah, that gas there. Okay? Okay? Just be careful with that. Rob also just put up our PayPal. We have 2 PayPal locations. We have a Venmo location. You can send us monetary donations, which we really appreciate. Okay? It becomes very hard to run this channel when the prices keep going up, and prices are going to continue going up realistically very high very quickly. Gas prices are going up because the Saudis just decreased the amount of fuel oil that they're going to sell us. Saudis just decreased the amount of oil and gas that they're willing to sell us. We knew this. We knew this when Joe Biden took office, and he slapped a halt order on all the oil and gas pumping units all over this country. We once had been self-sufficient and gas prices were going down. Then all of a sudden this clown gets into office and he shuts off our own oil and gas. And then we start having to buy it from Saudi Arabia. And guess what happens? They dictate whether we get it or not. And this is going to cause a huge problem here in the United States. Okay? Susie says it's $2.94 in Arkansas. I wish it had gone down to $2.99 where I live. Now it's up towards $3.25. I paid $3.13 the other day. I got lucky. Things are going to get really nasty. Food prices are going to go out of sight as truckers have to pay more and more for fuel. And people are going to be traveling less and less because of the prices. It's incredible. Linda Covington is saying West Virginia's finishing pipeline before 2024. I hope Joey B lets us open that pipeline, and I hope it works. Renee Steffi says it's $3.39 in Shelby. Arizona, it's $4.75 over near Phoenix, guys. Go figure. $4.75. And worse in California. Michael McKinney says, we still have oil around here. That's because Mr. B shut it off. So now we have to get it from Saudi Arabia. Go figure. Hurricane Heather says where she lives, they're paying over $5. Unreal. Anyway, guys, I hope you had a good time here tonight. I hope we all learned something. I tried to give you all the information I could cram into this program tonight. I have a lot more I need to tell you. You need to hear. When I come in here in the future, in the near future, talking about this, I hope all of you come and take notes. Because I'm going to be talking about these volcanoes now, and I'm also going to talk about the routes for evacuation. Okay? And not just from volcanoes, but from earthquakes as well. I hope you had a good time. Okay? Please, folks, on the way out, give us a thumbs up. Also, please, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. 25% of the people that watch this program are not subscribed. Also, YouTube keeps unsubscribing people. So please, folks, check and make sure you're still subscribed. Also, when you do that, make sure you click on the bell icon. There's a circle with a bell in it. Click on that. And when you do, click on the word ALL. There'll be a drop-down menu that comes up of 3 things. Click on the word ALL, all. That should get you notified when we come on the air. But not always, because YouTube doesn't always tell anybody. Or very few. So yes, they're unsubscribing people. Please go and make sure you're still subscribed. We're approaching 1,300 subscriptions now. 1,300 subscriptions. I'm excited. That's awesome. It's not subscriptions, it's families that are getting important information. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about making sure we get as many people here as possible so that people get the information that we have. It's vital for everybody's life and lifestyle. So folks, please do that. Now, if anything else happens tonight, we'll be back on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. But I want to tell you something before that. Okay? This has to do with a thought that hopefully will make your day even happier. Okay? We talk about a lot of negative things that can happen. Earthquakes and volcanoes and bad weather and death and destruction from these things that happen. This is something that I want to share with you. Something positive to better our lives. This comes from 2 Timothy. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16. All scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. All scripture is inspired, brothers and sisters. All scripture is inspired. Please remember that. Please remember that. We love you. We care about you. That's why we're here. I could very easily turn everything off and just go away. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure people have all the information that you need to get through an emergency and come out the other side. It may not be awesome, but at least it will be helpful for you. So please come with that idea to watch our programs. I hope you have a good night and a better tomorrow. Folks, enjoy. Be safe. Love one another. That was one of the biggest things that Christ ever said. Love one another as I have loved you. God be with you till we meet again. We will see you around the corner. Good night, everybody. Much love.